This video is sponsored by Harley Benton. Hi there, Perfecto Castro here and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. This is part 3 of my 3-part gigging with Harley Benton video series. In part 1, we unboxed the Harley Benton Fusion 3 HHFR, the Harley Benton SC552 PAF, and the Harley Benton DNAFx Git Pro. And then I pretty much subjected them to the real-world gig test fresh out of the box. Then in part 2, I detailed all the pre-gig setup steps that I applied to all 3 Harley Benton products, and I showed you some in-studio tone clips. And finally, here on part 3, I will offer my post-gig thoughts and recommendations based on the whole experience. Here we go. Okay, now let's dive right in. I will start with the Harley Benton DNAFx Git Pro. We have to keep in mind that the DNAFx Git Pro is the least expensive option right now in this multi-effects category. And the best thing that it has going for it is that it sounds pretty good. Now, all the presets that I put together on the DNAFx Git Pro are all based on the stock amp models and the stock cabs. So you will get more mileage once you start playing around with third-party IRs and such. So right off the bat, you have a nice tone foundation to build on. Plus, all the other available effects work as expected. All the I/O options of the DNAFx Git Pro also adds another level of usability for gigging musicians. So the way I have used it is I just went straight from the guitar into the DNAFx Git Pro and out through the XLR outs into the front of house. Now, if I were using a real guitar amp, I could hook up the DNAFx Git Pro 4-cable method and I'll have more flexibility that way. Plus, I'll be able to control the amp with the Git Pro's external amp switching functions and have that programmed into my presets. Now, as far as user interface goes, it's pretty straightforward and easy to figure out. Press on each button to call up the preset assigned to that button. Press on the active preset button to go into Stompbox mode. And then in Stompbox mode, you can assign 3 switches to do any of the following. Either effects block on and off, tap tempo, or the external amp channel switching function. Plus, there's a dedicated exit button. So in the heat of the gig, that's one less thing to worry about. Which now brings me to the thing that kind of disappoints me about the DNAFx Git Pro. And that is the delay in the tonal changes when you change presets, or even when you turn an effects block on and off. Okay, let me show you. I am on preset D and I will switch to preset C. So, aside from the delayed onset of the new tone, there's actually a dip in the volume and a swelling in of the new tone. So it's like a crossfade. Which is kind of weird, and that actually threw me off at several points during the gig. And as already mentioned, this also happens when the DNAFx is also in Stompbox mode. So I have a solo boost EQ assigned to button A. See, this that quick crossfade of tones that's somewhat irritating. Even with the delay. Now, in the other multi-effects options in this category, when you're in Stompbox mode, the change is instant. So that is kind of a bummer. However, the Harley Benton DNAFx Git Pro has one saving grace that sets it apart from the other multi-effects of this price point. And that is you can assign as many parameters as you want for continuous control via the expression pedal. Now on other multi-effects, you can typically assign up till maybe 3 parameters to the expression pedal. However, on the Harley Benton DNAFx Git Pro, you can assign as many as you want. Okay, now let me show you. This is my Soldano style preset. Nice and chunky. So I'm gonna hold the chord and I'm gonna roll back the expression pedal. So I was able to morph between a nice raunchy delayed lead tone to a rolled back edge of breakup tone with a little bit of modulation. And since I don't want modulation on my lead tone, that gets dialed out as I push on the expression pedal. Okay, now let me show you what's happening. This is the DNAFx Git Pro editor, and if I select amp, you will see that the gain knob is highlighted red. That means it's assigned to the expression pedal. And then if I move forward, the master volume of the amp is also assigned to the expression pedal. And as I rock it back and forth, you can see that knob is moving, as well as the gain knob. See that? So that's already 2 parameters assigned to it. And if we move to the modulation block, you can see 2 more parameters assigned to the expression pedal. So level, okay, so all the way toe down, the level of the modulation effects block is at 0, right? Or 2 or thereabouts. Barely any modulation. Let's think of it that way. And then the pitch knob, which adds the amount of detune, starts moving when I rock the expression pedal to the toe up position, therefore giving me that warbly warbly tone. And of course, anywhere in between the treble of the expression pedal, I can get other sounds too. So this allows for a smoother transition between different tones just in one preset and just by moving the expression pedal. Now let me show you another preset. This is based on the onboard Powerball style amp model, and it's set to an early heavy metal tone. So I'm gonna go from this fairly dry, scooped mid type of rhythm tone to a delayed mid-heavy lead tone just by pushing on the expression pedal. Okay, and then this is what's happening. So in the amp cab, I have 4 parameters assigned to the expression pedal. So gain, bass, and middle. See that? So toe up position, the middle is scooped, bass is tucked a little bit, as well as the gain. And then when I go to toe down, Mid is bumped up and the gain is bumped up as well. And then on the delay block, I have it tied to the level control. So toe up, delay level is 0. Toe down, delay level is at around 40. Now here's one more preset just to drive the point home. And this is my DNA plexi expression pedal type thing. Okay, and as you can see from the amp block, I have all the amp controls assigned to the expression pedal. So toe up will be my edge of breakup plexi sound. And toe down is my hot rod plexi. And then I can explore stuff in between. And then from here, I can go into stomp box mode and turn the delay on and off. And turn an Ottawa on. Yeah, so with this workaround, you can get a lot more usability out of the Harley Benton DNAFx Git Pro in a gigging situation. Now, another thing you need to think about if you're considering the Harley Benton DNAFx Git Pro as your multi-effects is the power supply. Now, since Harley Benton is a European brand, you get a power supply with a European plug, like this. Now, if you're in the US or any part of the world that uses a different style plug, you can get the suitable cable from Amazon or something, or just get a travel adapter, kind of like this, that will allow you to plug the round prongs. And of course, there's also the option of using a different 9-volt center negative power supply rated at around 1000 milliamperes or 1 ampere. Okay, now let's talk about the Harley Benton SC552PAF. As already mentioned, this is quite a pretty guitar. It is a looker no matter what angle you stare at it from. And as I mentioned during the unboxing, this is a very light guitar, especially for a single cut style. However, that lightweight sort of works against this guitar because of the position of the upper strap button. Now, in typical Les Paul guitars with the weight towards the lower butt of the instrument, when you put it on a strap, it puts the neck at a nice comfortable playing angle, like this. However, with the SC552's lighter body weight, when you put it on a strap, you can feel the instrument pulling towards the neck side. It's slightly neck heavy. So instead of sitting at the typical Les Paul neck angle, the SC550 wants to hang out in this more horizontal position. And all the times I used it, I could feel the strap just weighing down on my left shoulder. It's not a heavy guitar by any means, but that weird weight distribution can be uncomfortable for those with shoulder issues. Now, I still don't have any issues about the playability. It was nicely set up straight out of the box, and that is still the case right now. Now, regarding the Tesla pickups, I find them a little too scooped for my tastes. This is fine if you are playing on your own. It's nice and chunky and pleasing to the ear. And there is no, limit to the gain that you can get out of these pickups. However, in a live situation, I need that extra bit of mid-range bump so that it cuts through the band nicely, especially with my rig and if I'm playing with my other guitars. So switching back and forth between the SC550 and the Fusion 3 HH, I could hear and feel the difference in the mid-range content. And because of this, I found myself preferring to play the Fusion 3 over the SC550 most of the time. That said, the SC552 is a good platform for pickup swaps, so you can go crazy and try out different pickup sets to your heart's content. Now, there is one last thing that I need to show you guys on this SC552. As I was sitting down to film this, I noticed that the lower strap button is a little loose. Hear that? So I'm not sure if it was already loose when I got it, or if it worked itself loose as I was using it in the gigs. Now, the latter would be very bad because that means I am pulling the screw out of the wood. Anyway, that may be limited to this particular SC550, but it is something to watch out for. Finally, let's talk about the Harley Benton Fusion 3 HHFR. Now, at the beginning of the series, I was the least impressed with the Fusion 3 HHFR, mainly because of the rough patches on the back of the neck, which I sanded down in part 2. Since then, I've done a little more work to the back of the neck, sanding it some more with the sandpaper and finishing it off with some 000 steel wool. So now it's nice and smooth and satin to the touch. And with the combination of gig sweat and sweaty palm oil, this feels quite nice to play now. And I'm still very impressed by the flame on this roasted maple neck. Like, look at it. It's very pretty. I also complained about the gritty no-name strings in the previous video, so I swapped them out for my signature Kirk Mangan set, and these now feel really good. These strings now feel nice and smooth against the frets, and I can vibrato with no friction. Plus, the Floyd Rose works as advertised. And I do have to mention how much I like the Grover tuners on this guitar. They just turn nice and smooth and friction-free. It made changing the strings quite pleasurable. Okay, now let's talk about the pickups. These Roswell humbuckers has a nice range to them and enough mid-range content so that I feel that I can cut through any situation within a live context. They split quite nicely, giving even more range to the Fusion 3 HHFR. And in full humbucking mode, I was never left wanting for more bite or more muscle. So while early on in the series, I gravitated more towards the SC550, as I spent more time with these instruments, I found myself playing the Fusion 3 more and more, even mixing and matching it with my other guitars on other gigs. Now, there is one thing you need to watch out for on the Fusion 3, and that is the outer string spacing. On more than one occasion, I found myself playing and fretting out on the 6th string. See that? It's so easy to push off of the fingerboard. The 1st string is not that bad in the higher frets, but I can pull it off the fingerboard on the lower frets, especially the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd frets. Yeah. But the 6th string is pretty bad. Okay. So I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe a narrower nut is in order, or you just have to be a little bit more aware and not get too carried away when you're shredding away on the lower strings. Now to sum it all up, yes, this Harley Benton rig is definitely giggable. And if you follow my recommendations in this video, that will just add up to a more positive gigging experience. So whether you're a beginner looking to get their feet wet with their first shows, or you're the grizzled gig veteran looking for a more budget-friendly rig, then the Harley Benton stuff can be viable options for you guys. And I do have to mention that all three Harley Benton pieces clock in at well under $1,000, around $929 or so. So even if you use them on poorly paying gigs, they will earn their worth after a couple of months, maybe even sooner. Okay, there you have it. That concludes the 3-part gigging with Harley Benton video series. Big thanks to Harley Benton for sponsoring this video and for providing this Harley Benton rig for me to play with and show off to you guys. And if you're considering any one of these Harley Benton pieces, or perhaps even all three of them, please buy them from my affiliate links in the video description. Buying from these links are of no extra cost to you, and the small commission that I get helps me keep making these videos for everybody to enjoy. Now, if you dug this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and don't forget to ring that bell. And let me know what you think about this Harley Benton rig in the comment section. Which one is your favorite, and which one would you consider gigging with? Now, click on the end cards to go watch part 1 or part 2 of this video series if you haven't seen them yet, or you can go grab your guitar and play something. You all know the drill. Practice makes perfecto. Cheers, guys.